Before we continue, please subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. If you've ever been judged by your shirt and not your story, this one's for you. My name is Ronald Parkeron, two people who've eaten something I cooked. I'm 68. I drive a beige sedan or polos until they fade to gentler versions of themselves, and live in the same small craftsman in Costa Mesa that I bought with overtime and stubbornness. I built 3 companies, plumbing, HVAC, and a parts distributor, then sold them when my knees finally admitted they weren't 25. I invest like I sand wood, slow with the grain, no shortcuts. None of that looks rich from the sidewalk. I like it that way. The yacht's name is Serenity. 42 feet of quiet decisions. She rocked against her lines at Newport Marina, while the brass caught the afternoon sun like coins at the bottom of a clear stream. 2 months of planning had led to this moment, a family afternoon. Surprise. A way to make a point without raising my voice. They came down the gangway in a neat little parade. Derek, my son-in-law, stepped aboard first, designer loafers clicking on tick. He scanned the deck with that analyst's appraisal he turns on restaurants and relatives. For a heartbeat, his jaw dropped. The smirk came back like a screensaver. Well, he said, stroking the butter-soft leather under the canopy. How the hell did you afford this floating palace, Ronald? Not Dad. Not even Ron. Always Ronald. He makes my name sound like something he has to hold with 2 fingers and a grimace. Lindsay followed. My daughter, her handbag tucked in a little too close. Dad, please tell me you didn't blow your entire savings on this, she whispered, cheeks pink. That soft embarrassment tie. Know it too well. It's beautiful, Mr. Parker, said Sarah, my other daughter, stepping aboard with her husband, William. They have good eyes and a decent sense of when to speak. Derek didn't wait for permission. He drifted toward the helm, fingers grazing the navigation suite like he'd ordered it. This alone costs more than most people make in a year, he laughed, joyless. Playing yacht club, Ronald. At your age? I kept my hands clasped to keep them polite. Thought it would be nice to spend time together. Time together on what? Your midlife crisis? He popped a storage hatch, inspecting like an auditor on a hostile takeover. I get it. You want to feel successful. But this is embarrassing. How much debt did you take on for this fantasy? Lindsay touched his arm. Derek, maybe no, honey. This is concerning. Your father's made questionable decisions. We should talk about managing his assets before he loses everything. There it was. Managing his assets. As if I were a drowsy bank with an unlocked door. The rental company assured me everything's in order, I said lightly. The lie tasted bitter and necessary. Not yet. Timing matters. Derek's eyebrows jumped. Rental? Slightly less insane? Still ridiculous for Social Security. Social Security. I kept my smile. I've spent decades letting men with shinier watches underestimate me. It pays. Why don't you explore below deck? I offered. I'll get refreshments. Come on, babe, Derek called to Lindsay, already moving toward the companionway. Let's see how much your dad spent on his little boat adventure. They vanished. From below, look at this marble. Your dad's lost it. Lindsay's nervous laughter shadowed his words. William stayed back. It really is magnificent, Ron. The craftsmanship. Thank you, I said. My knuckles had gone white on the railing. The boat breathed under me, hull tapping the water softly, as if to say, you knew this might happen. 2 months earlier, March 22nd, I stood in maritime luxury yachts in a navy suit I only wear when a decision deserves a ceremony. Trevor, the salesman polite, a pushy walked me through Serenity for the 3rd time. Master cabin, queen berth, full head. Guest cabin converts to a double. Her displacement keeps you comfortable in chop, he said, patting bulkhead as if it had a heart. I ran my hand along the brass compass mounted by the helm. It had already become a talisman. I could see grandchildren I do not yet have learning. North by feel, south by patience. I could hear William asking good questions. I could picture Lindsay laughing without glancing at Derek to see if laughter was allowed. You're certain about the terms? I asked, even though the certified check $2.8 million was warm in my jacket. Absolutely, Trevor said. We'll file the USCG documentation in your name. Birth assignment confirmed. We'll have her delivered and commissioned by April 15th. Name stays? I asked. Serenity had been hers long before me. Some names you inherit? He smiled. Stays. She suits you. On the way home, I pulled into a parking lot and called my attorney, Elizabeth Parker. No relation. Just a woman who files papers with a spine made of law and common sense. Liz, I said, I'm buying a boat. You're buying a boat, she repeated, measuring the sentence as if it wanted to get away with something. We're putting it in the trust. Spendthrift provisions stay. No one named Derek can steer the checkbook. That's the idea, I said. We met. We added the vessel to the trust. We updated the letter of wishes. Family gets experiences, not allowances. My daughters get time and security, not a target painted on their backs. We added a note about boundaries and decks. If a man cannot respect the crew, he does not board. Then I planned. I invited Sarah and William first because they can handle a surprise like adults. I invited Lindsay and Derek because Hope is stubborn. I told no one else. I arranged with the marina office for a quiet extra fuel tender at 4. Doc had to stop by and say, Mr. Parker, did you still want us to pick up the ship's documents for stamping? Men like Derek believe men in polos. I arranged with my friend Jaya, retired coastie, who teaches weekend boating classes, to swing by with a grin and a USCG auxiliary cap and ask me, in front of everyone, Ron, you got your safety drills lined up for the shakedown? Theater, but true. I have the card. I earned it when I was younger and poorer, and the ocean taught me manners. On deck, I unsnapped the canvas to let the breeze through. Below, cabinets opened and shut. Unbelievable floated up, his favorite adjective when he wants to make sure you feel small. My jaw clenched. The brass compass flashed. It's catching my eye. A memory I didn't invite arrived anyway. A younger me under a kitchen sink at midnight. Water everywhere, a baby monitor hissing on the counter. Fixing the leak because the plumber I was becoming couldn't afford to hire the plumber I intended to be. Plumbers have no place here. Men like Derek have said that in different rooms my whole life. Fine, let them. We'll see how the champagne gets to their glasses. A small, traitorous sound interrupted the deck's calm, the faint, maddening tick of a drip off the starboard galley faucet. New boat, new lines. Things settle. Fittings prefer a firm hand. I listened. Tick, tick. I smiled, despite myself. An honest drip. Something useful to do? I popped the hatch. Grabbed the small roll-up pouch I keep by the sink. My tools look less like tools and more like pens now. Ergonomic, compact, as expensive as a modest watch. Old men who worked with their hands don't quit. We just get quieter about it. Down in the galley, I found the culprit. Compression nut not quite home. The braided line breathed each time the pump cycled. I shut the valve, cracked the nut, reseated, gave it the measured quarter turn with a crow's foot, wiped, watched, dry. Tick silenced. I didn't hear Derek until his shadow filled the doorway. He leaned on the jamb, arms folded, a smile he uses for waiters and platitudes. What are you doing, Ronald? Fixing a drip, I said, not moving. She settled on delivery. It happens, he scoffed. You brought a wrench to a yacht? Plumbers have no place here. I straightened. In that small, space-polished wood, steel. The clean smell of a boat that hasn't yet learned everyone's name's eye. Let the sentence sit between us like a challenge that preferred not to be met. I wiped my hands on a towel, stood. Looked him in the eye. This is my yacht, I said, calm as noon. A plumber paid for it. The words landed with the soft thud of a truth that doesn't ask to be believed. He laughed short, derisive, the way a man laughs when a mirror catches him off guard. Cute line, he said. Rental people hear that all the time, up on deck. Footsteps, Sarah and William returning, Lindsay hovering, reading weather. There was a second set, confident, rubber-soled, purposeful. I heard the dock cart's soft squeak and the cheerful greeting that came with it. Afternoon, Mr. Parker? Called Lucas from Dock Sea Kids 24. Knows every boat on the pier. Treats everyone like they have interesting stories. Fuel tender at 4 is confirmed. Also, I've got your Coast Guard docs from the office. Want me to leave them by the helm for stamping? Please, I said, not taking my eyes off Derek. Thank you, Lucas. Derek blinked. Behind Lucas, another voice Jay's, with that Coast Guard rasp and a grin. Ron, he called, stepping aboard without asking because he's earned that right. You still up for a man overboard drill on the shakedown? Or are we just doing a gentle harbor cruise so the in-laws don't lose their lunch? Sarah's smile bloomed. William chuckled. Lindsay's eyes flicked to Derek, then to me, then away. Calculating distances she couldn't see, Derek's smirk lost a little pigment. You did some homework, he said. The tone he uses when he finds out a restaurant he sneered at has a James Beard award. I didn't answer. Serenity did. Boats have a way of telling the truth if you let them. Why don't we get some air? I said. And after that, I'll show you the bill of sale with my name. Since paperwork seems to be a language you understand, I moved past him toward the stairs. He stepped aside. Not much. Enough. On deck, Lucas set a slim folder by the helm. Everything's in there, Mr. Parker. Oh, and the yard called your custom transom lettering is ready whenever you are? You still want it in script? Yes, I said. We'll do it after the shakedown. I turned to the group. Anyone want sparkling water? There's lemonade if you'd rather pretend it's June. Derek hovered, stuck between bravado and math. And how exactly did you? You know, I said lightly. I've been meaning to tell you the long version. It starts under a kitchen sink and ends with this compass. We have time, he forced a smile. Sure, humor me. I planned to, I said. What I did next would shock them more than a title card. I didn't plan revenge. I planned a lesson loud enough to hear, quiet enough to keep. I'd invited an audience for it. The marina, a retired coastie, a dockhand who sees people, and a little drip that gave me my entrance line. All right, Serenity. Let's go tell the truth. Asterisk if you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. This is the chapter where assumptions meet paperwork, and a little Siam, up on deck, Serenity breathed. The dock lines creaked. The hull kissed the water. Lucas set a slim leather folder by the helm and tipped his cap. Docs from the office, Mr. Parker. USCG SAT, bill of sale, title packet, slip assignment. He grinned at Lindsay. Your dad's got the prettiest girl on E-Dock. Behind him, Jay stepped aboard his CG auxiliary cap, forearms like dock cleats, smile that forgives men their pride. Ron, he said, clapping my shoulder, you finally did it? Ready to show them stern lines and second chances? Always, I said. Derek hovered in the companionway, smirk recalculating. This is elaborate, he said. You really had the marina kid play along? Lucas is a dock attendant, I said, not bothering to correct his tone. And I like people who know their water. I opened the leather folder. The top page was the bill of sale maritime luxury yachts to Ronald L. Parker, identifying Serenity by her HIN and specs. Below it, the USCG abstract of title, temporary certificate pending the engraved placard. The slip license E13 Parker Family Trust sat on top, paper clipped to a bright red card with emergency numbers. I didn't hand it to Derek. I laid it on the helm bench where anyone with eyes could. Reed Lindsay leaned in first. Her hand went to her mouth, then to the edge of the bench like she needed the wood. Dad, she whispered. You own her. I do, I said. I did the paperwork slowly so I wouldn't spook myself. Derek reached past her, skimmed the top line, and exhaled in a way men do when they discover the soup is colder than they hoped. 2.8. He started, then remembered he didn't like to sound impressed. So you liquidated something. That's bold. Jay winked at me. Nothing bolder than a man who knows his knots. Speaking of who's on lines, we're going for a short shakedown, Serenity heard him. She leaned toward the channel like a dog that understands the word walk. I'll take the helm, I said. William? Fenders? Sarah, loose the bow and stand by the spring. I'll call it. Lindsay, you're with me. Watch my depth on the plotter. Read me the waypoint to the number 8 can. Derek, he straightened, ready for an offhand promotion. Derek, you're on the stern line, I said, and you can coil the spare dock line so no one trips. I held his gaze long enough for the sentence to register. Useful without being central. Crew, not guest of honor. He gave me that smile people put on when they realize the party isn't about them. Whatever you need, he said. Life jackets, Sarah asked. In the forward locker, I said. We'll set 2 out in case someone decides to prove a point. I looked at Derek. He laughed too quickly. We did a safety talk because boats are honest and water doesn't care what you earn. PFD locations, VHF on 16 and 68, fire extinguisher by the galley stairs, first aid under the starboard settee, man overboard plan, throw the cushion, point, never lose sight, don't shout, you shout instructions. I spoke around the lump in my throat, some of it pride. Some of it the memory of a younger me taking the same notes on a cheaper boat with more rust and fewer witnesses. Bring her off the dock with a spring line, Jay suggested, letting me lead. Wind's holding you on. Copy, I said. Sarah, hold the forward spring to the midship cleat. Derek, release the stern line and step aboard. Don't jump, he released, but he didn't coil. He fed the line like spaghetti and hopped across the gap like a YouTube fail waiting to happen. For a second, I saw him misjudge the distance and heard the splash that would change the tone of the afternoon. William grabbed his forearm at the last second. Derek flushed, covering it with a laugh. Nearly got my loafers baptized, he said. Jay pretended not to see. Lindsay did for once. She didn't laugh to fill the air. She looked at me instead. I bumped the throttle forward a touch. Rudder right, the spring-held Serenity edged off the dock. Bow yawing against the line, as she did what boats have always done when someone at the wheel knows the dance. Release spring, I said. Sarah popped it free in one smooth move and stepped aboard like she'd been doing it for years. We slid into the fairway, the no-wake sign telling us to behave like decent people. Nice, Jay murmured. You still got it. Rusty joints? Good memory, I said. Like the rest of me, the channel to the harbor was a postcard paddlers practicing strokes. Kids in oversized PFDs pointing at sea lions who had unionized on the buoy. I set us at 6 knots and let Serenity learn my hand. Lindsay stood a little behind me, eyes on the plotter like she was reading tea leaves. Waypoint 2, the number 8 can? I asked. 0.3 nautical miles, steer 052, she said. Then grinned like a child who realizes numbers are just another language. If you want, I said, I'll let you take the wheel after the turn. She glanced at Derek, a reflex. He was busy fiddling with a fender that didn't need fussing. Okay, she said. We passed the harbor mouth. The Pacific layout beyond the jetties, shoulders rolling. I stayed inside today, wasn't about swells. It was about a different kind of sea state. When we were in the open fairway, with distance from dockside egos, I cleared my throat. There's one thing I'd like to say, while we're moving and the wind can help carry the weight, I said. No one spoke. Even Derek's smirk leaned in to listen. I told you this was a rental, I said. It wasn't. It was a test of a hypothesis I've had my whole life. That men who think plumbers have no place on a yacht will be the first to need one. When a fitting weeps and the ocean notices, he bristled. I held up a hand. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm telling you what's true. I built 3 companies with these hands. I turned my palm up. The old scar from a hasty slip with a pipe cutter ghosting white in the sun. Sold them when it made sense. Invested. Paid off my house. Kept my car. Stacked humility because it pays dividends. I bought this because I wanted a room where my family could be a crew, not an audience. Sarah reached for William's hand and found it. Lindsay wiped her cheek with the back of her wrist, as if the wind had decided to sting only her. 2 more things, I said. Serenity is titled to the Parker Family Trust. That's for liability and sanity. If you disrespect the crew, you don't board. If you show up with kindness, you'll get your own drawer. I flicked a glance at Derek, then back to the horizon. And this boat will spend one weekend a month serving families who think boats are for other people veterans. Kids who've only seen the ocean through chain link. The maintenance crew at your office, Derek, because they keep your floors clean and your presentations honored. Jay grinned. He'd offered me that idea last week. I'd grabbed it with both hands. Water should democratize. Derek laughed, trying to roll the moment onto its back. So you're a philanthropist now. Congratulations. We should talk, Donna advised, already set, I said. And not with you. He bristled again. It didn't stick. The wind took it. Behind us, the VHF crackled. Serenity, Marina. Office on 6-8. Over. I picked up the mic. Marina, this is Serenity. Go ahead, Mr. Parker. Just confirming your transom lettering was delivered to the yard. When you're ready, we'll do the install on E13. Also a nice job on the departure. Doxy boys are taking notes. The voice chuckled. Over. Thanks, I said. We'll be back in 45. Serenity out. Derek's eyebrows did a probably involuntary bounce. Transom lettering? Name on the stern, I said. The pretty script a boat wears, so she remembers who she is. What's it say? Lindsay asked. Serenity Newport Beach, I said. And under that, in small letters, paid for by a plumber, I let the grin finally come. Jay dared me. I said I'd sleep on it. I slept well. Jay raised both hands. Guilty. We can remove it if it embarrasses anyone at the yacht club tasting olive oil too. See if it has enough adjectives. Lindsay laughed through a tear. Derek didn't. I throttled back and let Serenity loaf. The water around us made its own conversations maul scuds. A gull that had decided we might be interesting. You want to try? I asked Lindsay, nodding at the wheel. She stepped closer. I moved aside. She laid her hands on the teak like a person introducing themselves. Ease her to the right, I said. Fix your eyes on the number 8, Can. Slow moves. Boats have time. She adjusted. Small, thoughtful movements. Stirring a sauce, she said, surprising herself. Exactly, I said. Derek tried to lean casual against the hardtop and missed the post by an inch. He covered it by reaching for his sunglasses. So, what, you're going to play captain now? I'm going to make sure my girls know the difference between a cleat hitch and a bowline, I said, and that their kids will learn to read a compass before they learn to ask a man for. Directions to the ferry. I nodded at William. And my son-in-law is going to help me service the raw water strainer, because he likes things that run. William, God bless him, nodded. Happy to get my hands wet, he said. Derek barked a laugh. William, you don't even change your own oil. I will on a boat, William said. It's more honest about what happens if you don't. We swung a slow arc and aimed back toward the harbor. Jay pulled a throwable cushion from the locker and tossed it in an easy arc. Man overboard, he called in a mock-dramatic voice. Point, don't lose sight. Sarah pointed and didn't move. Lindsay kept the wheel steady and circled slow. William leaned on the rail, boat hook poised. Derek started to shout directions no one needed. Jay raised an eyebrow. Sit, he said, not unkind. Watch. We recovered the cushion in under a minute. Calm. No heroics. Everyone's heart beating for the right reasons. Lindsay handed the wheel back, grinning like she'd borrowed her own face, and found it fit better than she remembered. On the way in, I let Derek be useful. Take the stern line, I said. No jumping. Coil like you mean it. If you want to learn a cleat hitch, I'll teach you. Every knot is just a sentence you tie. He took the line. His first hitch was a murder scene. I undid it with fingers that remember. Like this, I said, showing the figure 8 with a finish that would survive a boomerang lawyer. Again, I said. He tried. It got better. It's hard to sneer and learn at the same time. We slid into E13 on a breath Sarah, catching the bow. William stepping off clean on the spring, Jay whistling something that might have been Semper Paratus. Derek got the stern on with a hitch that would hold if the wind decided to remember its job. Not pretty. better. When the engines were quiet and the world sounded like a marina again, I killed the electronics and faced my family. Sparkling water in the fridge, I said, Pellegrino and the cheap stuff. Lemonade if you want to feel 12. Tonight, we'll grill. If you want to write a crew roster, we can. If you want to argue about whether plumbers belong on yachts, we can, but I think the faucet settled that. Derek swallowed. It looked like found humility's first sip. I misread, he said. Not an apology. For him, a sonnet. Here's the last thing I said. Opening a drawer and pulling out a slim binder with Serenity Ops and guests on the spine. If you want to bring friends aboard, there's a page to sign. 3 lines, I tapped them. Respect the crew. Do your share. Fix what you break. You sign it, you bring them. You don't, you don't? Lindsay reached for a pen. I'll sign, she said. And I'll bring potato salad next time because your grilling is perfect, but your sides are a cry for help. Sarah laughed. I'll bring deviled eggs. William will bring a torque wrench, William said, grinning. Derek looked at the binder. He looked at the dock. He looked at me. Do I sign? If you want to be crew, I said. If you want to be a critic, there are deck chairs ashore. He held my gaze for a long 5 seconds. Then he took the pen. He wrote his name with his usual flourish, then smaller, under it, line I hadn't expected. I will learn. Good, I said. We all will. Lucas popped his head over the rail. Mr. Parker, he said. The yard called again. Your transom lettering's ready whenever you want to be a little obnoxious. He winked. I vote obnoxious tomorrow, I said. After we eat, I poured waters and passed them. The sunset decided to do its showy thing. Masts cut the sky into honest pieces. I stood by the brass compass and touched it again. This time, the joy didn't have to ask for permission. It brought its own chair. What I did next surprised them more than the title packet. I didn't give anyone a speech about inheritance. I opened the galley, pulled out a cutting board, and began to prep dinner. I slid a knife across to Derek. Chop, I said. Small, even. Boats swing. So do judgments. Make yours balanced. He swallowed. He chopped asterisk. If you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. This chapter is smoke from a grill, paperwork in the open. And a rule that gets tested. Sunset poured itself over E-Dock like someone finally turned the dimmer up. William lit the rail grilla, tidy little stainless number that throws heat like it has something to prove. Sarah handed me a bowl of shrimp that had sat in lemon and garlic and good olive oil for an hour. The galley smelled like all the kitchens I loved. Minus the bad fluorescent lighting, Derek, I said. Sliding him a cutting board and a chef's knife. Dice those peppers, small and even. Boats swing. So do judgments. Make yours balanced. He looked at the knife like it owed him a favor, then at me. Sure, he said, thin smile. He started chopping. Not pretty. Better than I expected. Lindsay stood with her back to the sunset, face to the heat, hair catching red. She was quieter than I've seen her at holidays. No hostess shrugged. No, we're fine comedy routine. She was paying attention. That alone was worth the fuel. Neighbors waved from the next slipover. A married pair in boat shoes and honest wrinkles held up plastic cups. New boat? The woman called. New to me, I said. Name? She asked, cupping her ear. Serenity, I called back. Paid for by a plumber, she laughed, genuine and loud. Best name I've heard in years? Lucas bounced down the dock with a coil over his shoulder. Yacht says your transom lettering is ready if you want to be outrageous, he grinned. We can do it in 10 minutes. Sun's still friendly. Thought you said tomorrow, Jay murmured, amused. Punctuality is a guideline on E-Dock, Lucas said. Besides, the vinyl's cut and my hands are bored. I looked at my crew at Sarah plating, William coaxing the grill, had Lindsay watching the water like it was reading her. Do it, I said. Let's make the yacht club clutch their pearls, Lucas. Hop to the stern with a slim tube and the reverence of a man bringing out a cake. He and a yard tech and a skiff wiped, aligned, squeegeed. Script unfurled. Serenity, Newport Beach. Underneath, in clean little letters. The sentence I'd agreed to, and half dared myself with, "It's paid for by a plumber." There was a small chorus from the dock crowd cheers. A whoop, a whoop, a whoop from someone I hadn't met yet. Phones came out. Not for Instagram vanity, more like a neighborhood sending itself a note. This is how we do it here. We ate at the cockpit table while the name dried. The shrimp popped and disappeared. Potatoes crisped in a cast iron that's older than Derek. I raised my water, a toast, I said. To plumbers and pilots, to crew and not critics, to boats that tell the truth and dinners that help us hear it. And to a compass that points to home if you let it. We clinked. Even Derek. Then we moved inside to the salon for coffee and something I'd been carrying since the paperwork print, word hot into a tray. I set the slim leather folder on the table. "Trust terms," I said. "Plain talk." Derek leaned back, making the chair more recliner than seat. Lindsay leaned forward. Sarah and William flanked me like decent counsel. "Serenity is titled to the Parker Family Trust," I began. "She is for family and for service 1 weekend a month for folks who need a boat to remind them they belong on the water too. Crew rules are simple. Respect the crew, do your share, fix what you break. There's an ops binder for guests sign it, or you don't board. No money talk aboard, no posting paperwork. No negotiations over the salad." Derek snorted. "No fun either, I guess." "Plenty of fun," I said. "It just has good manners." "I suppose you'll be allowing us time," he said, putting a peach fuzz of sarcasm on the word. "I'll be scheduling cruises," I said. "You bring people you're proud of. You train if you want to take the helm. Which brings me to this." I slid a single page across to him. Maytrack. ASA 101 or USCG Auxiliary Safety Class. 5. Working knots cleat hitch, bowline, clove, figure 8, rolling hitch. Log 10 hours on the helm under supervision. Learn to handle lines without turning them into modern art. You do that. You can take her out with me aboard and choose the day's chart. Earned, not assumed. He stared at the page like it might stain him. "Homework," he said. "Responsibility," I said. Boats speak that language. As I poured coffee, the salon window turned into a mirror. Reflections don't lie. In it, I caught a little motion. Derek's phone beneath the table, camera up, a soft click. The angle was wrong for scenery. It was right for laminated paper. I set the carafe down gently, then set my palm on the leather folder. "Derek," I said, "steady. Give me your phone, please." His eyes flicked up and narrowed. "Excuse me?" "You just took a photo of the bill of sale," I said, "and probably the slip license." "That's a broken rule." "Give me the phone," he set his jaw. I was texting a friend from Shoreline Capital. He handles family offices. He could help delete the photos, I said. "Then hand me the phone. I'll look with you. You can have it back when you step off the dock." Lindsay's head snapped toward him. "Derek?" she hissed. It wasn't the plea I'm used to. It was a warning. He laughed, brittle. "Are we children now?" "On a boat? We're crew," I said. "And crew obeys rules because water doesn't care how clever you are. You broke a rule. You disembark. You can come back when you're ready to be crew." He bristled. Then he made the worst move you can make when you're already leaning toward a door. He doubled down. "You don't get to Derek," Lindsay said. Louder. "Stop." "Give him the phone." Silence. The marina breathed. The letters on the transom dried with a soft whisper of air and adhesive. He slid the phone across, insolent. I pulled up photos. 2 shots. The top of the bill of sale, the slip license, a draft text. "Need to get ahead of this. He thinks a trust will keep us out. Let's talk structures." I held the screen for him to see, then turned it so Lindsay could. Lindsay closed her eyes like something in her had finally decided to sit down. "You couldn't wait one dinner?" she asked, voice flat. I deleted the photos, the draft. Handed him the phone back. "You're done for tonight," I said. "Not mean final. Lucas will walk you to the gate. You're welcome back after you've signed the ops page and booked the safety class. Not before?" He stared at me, disbelief and indignation having a small fistfight in his throat. "Your call," I said, softening my voice because righteousness gets addicted to itself, and I've learned to distrust it. "You can make this about humiliation. Or you can make it about a man who bought a boat and asked another man to respect it." He stood fast, chair tap against teak. For a second, I thought he'd punch the air just on principle. He didn't. He looked at Lindsay. "You coming?" he asked. She looked at me. Then at the brass compass by the helm. Then at the name on the transom through the window. "I'm staying," she said. Simple. "I'll lift. We'll talk tomorrow." That sentence did more than anything I'd planned. It untied a knot. I'd left a swell in a wet locker for years. Derek's mouth opened, closed. He tucked his phone into his pocket so hard it might have welcomed the bruise. "Enjoy the plumber party," he said, and stepped onto the dock. Lucas appeared as if conjured by the spirit of good timing. "Gate?" he asked cheerfully. Derek walked, shoulders trying on two sizes of dignity. At the gate, he looked back once. At the stern lettering. At my daughter. At the dockhand who calls me Mr. Parker without sneer. Then he was gone. The boat let out a breath so quiet it could have been a trick of the tide. "Crew meeting?" I said softly. 2 minutes. We sat. Not to rehash. To reset, rule stays, I said. No money talk aboard. No paperwork photos. No negotiations over dinner. If someone breaks a rule, they disembark. We love them. We lock the gate until they're ready. Lindsay wiped her face. "I'm sorry," she said automatically. "Don't be," I said. "You followed a rule I didn't write. Stay where the respect is." Sarah reached across and squeezed Lindsay's hand. William poured more coffee in a masterstroke of kindness. Talked about nothing for a minute. The sea lions on the number 10 buoy. The kid in the skiff who looked like he was learning to drive water like a car. The room remembered how to be a room. Outside, neighbors passed with dogs and curiosity. A man from Sea Dock slowed, read the stern aloud, and barked a laugh. "Paid for by a plumber," he said, shaking his head. "Wish I'd thought of that for my mortgage." Jay stood, stretched, and tapped the ops binder. "Crew roster," he said. "Sin Parker. And you, William." "Sarah, you too." "Lindsay, put your name on the line for helm practice." "You're good," we signed. The pen felt like a ceremony that didn't need a judge. Later, after dishes and the post-sunset chill and the kind of tired that doesn't accuse, I walked to the stern. The vinyl had cured. I ran a finger under the little letters. "Paid for by a plumber." It felt like telling the truth in a font. "Tomorrow," I told Serenity, "we'll take Carla's crew from the community kitchen out. And next week, we'll bring the janitorial team from Derek's office. If he comes, he serves." The brass compass held steady at north. That's a small miracle in a world that insists on calling spin direction. I turned in. Lindsay slept in the forward cabin, door ajar, not a child, not an exile, just a tired person who finally set down a bag. Sarah and William took the bunks. Jay snored on the settee with the confidence of a man who has seen worse angles and better ones. I lay in the master stateroom listening to the slap and hush of water against fiberglass and thought about the next conversation I'd have to have. It wouldn't be loud. It would be as quiet as a sane holler at 5 a.m. It would start with, "Do you want to be crew?" and end with a class sign-up and a pen. What comes next will surprise no one who's ever had to choose a boundary twice. I'll keep choosing. I'll keep inviting. I'll keep a life jacket at the ready for a man who still thinks the ocean has a VIP list tomorrow. We'll teach a kid to coil a line. That might save more lives than any argument I could win tonight. Asterisk, if you're listening on the channel, hit subscribe. This is where the boat becomes a room that changes people. Saturday morning, Serenity wore sun like a badge. Jay ran through the safety board while I iced a cooler. Carla from the community kitchen came down the dock with 8 guests in thrifted jackets and bright eyes to moms. 3 kids, an elderly vet with a cane, a dishwasher from the diner on 19th, and a teenager who'd only seen the ocean through a window. Welcome aboard, I said. Shoes off or soft soles, hands on rails. We moved together. The vet, Mr. Clancy, read the stern and barked a laugh. Paid for by a plumber, he said. Finally, truth in advertising. Lindsay, hair in a cap, stood at the helm for the harbor talk. Life jackets under the forward bench, she said, voice clear. If you drop something, tell us. If you're scared, say so. It'll pass. The teenager, Jamal, took line duty with William. He coiled like he'd been waiting his whole life for someone to show him how. We idled past the sea lions at number 10 and laid Serenity's wake. Gentle, so little hands stayed calm on the rail. On the way back, Mr. Clancy stood beside me, eyes wet in the salt air. You know what I like best? He said. Not just that we're on a boat, that you're teaching. Makes a man feel like he belongs. That's the whole point, I said. Derek texted that afternoon. I overreacted. I was trying to protect the family. Optics. Can we reset? I typed back. We can. Book ASA 101 or the auxiliary safety class. Read the ops page. Sign it, then come down. Reset on the dock. He sent back a thumbs up. No paragraphs. That was new. A week later, I invited the janitorial crew from Derek's office, 6 men and women who make glass look like it wasn't there. Right before we cast off, Derek rounded the corner of E-Dock in a ball cap and a PFD, not a blazer. He held up a card like a passport. ASA 101, he said. And I can tie a cleat hitch without committing crimes against rope. Show me, I said. He did. Not pretty. Better. He handed me his phone without being asked and signed the ops page. Respect the crew. Do your share. Fix what you break. Then, under his name, the same small line as before, I will learn. He didn't take the helm. He lugged coolers. He found kids the right size PFDs. He asked Mrs. Ortiz, the woman who vacuums his lobby, what she wanted to see most. Sea lions, she said. He made sure she did. Halfway through, he walked to the stern alone and stood looking at the vinyl, shoulders squared in a way I recognized from men about to decide something. I said, plumbers have no place here, he said to the letters. Then, to me, I was wrong. He didn't dress it. He didn't sell it. I'm sorry. There it was. The apology that wasn't optics. Crew learns, I said. He nodded, eyes glassy the way wind does to a man. Crew learns, he repeated. After we tucked the janitorial crew into lifts with leftover cookies and the kind of smiles people wear when someone made a room for them. I called Liz. Add 1 line to the letter of wishes, I said. No photos of paperwork aboard. Anyone who violates privacy disembarks for a quarter. They can apply back through the crew page. It's not punitive. It's how we keep the room intact. Done, she said. You're getting good at this. I've been practicing boundaries on dry land, I said. The water makes them stick. Spring bled into early summer. The transom script earned us dock friends and a reputation for bringing out the folks who make cities work. Every 4th Saturday, the galley smelled like Carla's chili on a boat. Jamal learned to bowl in blindfolded. Mr. Clancy told the same story 3 different ways, and we acted like it was new every time because it was. And then came the day I'd been aiming at. Since Trevor handed me a spec sheet under showroom lights, we took Serenity beyond the jetties on a morning that rolled clean. Jay stayed ashore. You don't need a chaperone anymore, he'd said. Winking and William double-checked the forecast like a man who respects cloud grammar. Clear, he said, at the helm. Lindsay looked at the plotter, then out at the water. What heading? She asked. Southwest to the number 3 buoy, I said. Then hold her nose to a gentle swell. If she talks to you, listen. She'll tell you what she needs. She took the wheel. I stepped back, 1 hand on the stainless. Not because she needed me, but because fathers need rails. Outside the breakwater, the Pacific lifted us in long breaths. Lindsay adjusted with small, thoughtful turns, eyes always ahead. She found the rhythm in under 5 minutes. That quiet conversation between hand and hull. Lift and settle. Feels like stirring a sauce, she said again, smiling. Everything does when you do it right, I said. Sarah set a mug of coffee on a non-skid coaster by my elbow. William watched the horizon for cross-traffic and pointed out a dolphin arc that made us all forget air for a second. Derek stood by the mast and didn't explain the ocean to anyone. At the buoy, I put my hand on Lindsay's shoulder. Ready for your first call? I asked. She grinned. Crew, this is your captain, she said into the wind, voice steady. We're turning for home. I stood and did the thing men save for too long. Proud of you, I said. She looked at me like a girl and a woman at once. Thank you for making a room I could learn in, she said, back inside the harbor. With the sun turning masts into lines on a page, we slid into E13 with a grace that wasn't luck. Derek threw the stern line with just enough lead. William stepped on with the spring. Sarah took the bow without fuss. Lindsay centered the wheel and eased us into neutral like she'd been doing it since she was 10. I shut the engines down and listened to the marina return. Kids laughed on sea dock. A dog disapproved of a pelican. Somewhere, Lucas told a new tenant a story about the best name he'd ever as Queeged. We ate standing up sandwiches. Cherries, crackers that crumble into happy disasters. Derek cleaned the galley without being asked. He even wiped the stove backsplash because he's finally learned a boat remembers on the way off. A guy in a blazer that cost more than my first van stopped and pointed at the stern. Paid for by a plumber? He asked, trying for snide. Kept afloat by one too, Derek said before I could. He didn't smile like a performer. He spoke like crew. We locked the gate and stood on the dock a minute longer than necessary. Lindsay tucked her arm through mine. Sarah and William argued gently about whether dolphins were showing off or just hungry. Derek looked at the water the way people look at something they used to think they owned and now understand they get to take care of. This is my yacht, I said. Soft enough it was for me. A plumber paid for it, and your family runs it, Lindsay added. Only when we've done our homework, Derek said. We laughed. The kind that shakes loose whatever you've been carrying in the wrong place. I drove home in the beige sedan, still loved because it doesn't need me to tell it what it is. In my head, I could hear the little drip below the galley from that first afternoon tick. Tick. The one that gave me my line and bought me my moment. Plumbers do have a place here. It's the helm, the engine room, the galley, and the transom written small and true. More than that, it's the room we've built around a compass that says home if you hold it steady. Next weekend, Carla's back with new guests, and Jamal's bringing his mother. We'll teach a Bolin. We'll tell the truth. We'll eat too many cherries and not enough salad. And if someone shows up with a smirk and a plan, we'll hand them a line and a rule and see which one they pick. Crew learns. Crew belongs. Crew respects the boat. And when the sun lays that last stripe across E-Dock and Serenity rocks gentle against her lines, the letters at her stern catch the light and laugh with us. Paid for by a plumber. Run by a family. Steady as she goes.